Hello and welcome back to Dear Jordan. This one is going to be a little heavier. Not in a way I want you to feel burdened by it, but in a way that I hope teaches you something about the kind of connections that will shape your life. I experienced a great loss this week. My best friend died in an accident, and even saying that out loud still doesn't feel real. Because he wasn't just someone from my past, he was someone in my present, someone I spoke to every day, someone I was actively building life with in a way that didn't need a label to be real. What's interesting and something that I want you to understand is that this wasn't a friendship that started in the way you would expect. It didn't start in comfort, it didn't start in familiarity. It started as a date. Two people meeting in a space that could have easily stayed surface level, but didn't. Somehow, it turned into something deeper, something steady, something that over time became one of the most important relationships in my life. And the part that's hard to explain to people is how something that didn't span decades can still carry a lifetime of impact. So today I want to tell you that story, not just to remember him, but to show you that some of the most meaningful connections you'll ever have won't always look the way you expect them to. So if you're listening to this, grab your coffee, your water, whatever you need to sit with me for a little while, because I'm going to do my best to get through this one too. Dear Jordan, I want to tell you about my best friend. And the part that makes this story a little unexpected is that we were never supposed to be that to each other. We met on a dating app, Bumble to be exact. And at the time I was stepping into a world I had never really experienced before. I had never truly dated, not in the way people casually move through it. So everything about it felt unfamiliar. Almost unnatural. But new didn't mean light. I didn't come into that space as someone carefree or open. I came with a pending divorce, 4 children, and a life that felt like it was constantly trying to stabilize itself. And like most people do, I learned how to present something more manageable. Not a lie, just a version of myself that felt easier to receive. And somehow that version caught his attention. We matched. We started talking, and what started as casual conversation quickly became something consistent. There was a rhythm to it, a comfort that didn't feel forced. So much so that we moved off the app and into texting almost naturally. And then he said something at the time that felt bigger than it should have. I want to meet you. Now, logically, that's the next step. But when your confidence has been broken down over time, logic doesn't always lead. Fear does. I had spent years being told that no one would want me. So when someone did, it didn't feel validating. It felt suspicious. So I tried to control the situation in small ways. I suggested Sunday afternoon, which, if we're being honest, is probably one of the least romantic times for a first date. And he didn't question it. He didn't try to shift it into something more convenient for him. He just said, whenever works for you, I'm there. And I didn't realize it then, but that was the first sign of who he was. Half of me hoped I wouldn't find a babysitter because then that would give me an out. A reason to not show up. But everything aligned in a way that made that date happen anyway. And I walked into it carrying every insecurity I had. When I saw him, my first thought was immediate and quiet. We don't match. At least not in the way I thought we were supposed to. I looked like a mom. I felt like a mom. And he looked like someone who didn't carry the same visible weight of life. And in my mind, that meant something. But then we started talking and something shifted because we didn't stay on the surface. We didn't talk about favorites or hobbies or things that fill silence. We talked about childhood, perspective, purpose, the way we saw the world, and whether or not we believed we were meant for more than what we were currently living. And there was something almost disorienting about it because it felt familiar, like I wasn't meeting someone new. I was reconnecting with someone I had known for a long time. We kept seeing each other, and every time we did, the connection deepened. Not in a way that felt rushed, but in a way that felt natural, like we were both just allowing the conversation to go where it was already trying to go. And then life interrupted, not quietly, but aggressively. The kind of interruption that comes with unresolved relationships and outside chaos. My ex did everything he could to disrupt what was forming. And in some ways, he succeeded. Because Jarrell didn't want drama, and more than that, he couldn't afford it. So he made the decision to step away. Not because there wasn't something there, but because sometimes timing matters just as much as connection. He moved on into another relationship, and I respected that fully. I didn't insert myself. I didn't try to linger in a space that wasn't mine anymore. I reached out once about a book we had talked about, and that was it. But something I learned in that space is that distance doesn't always remove someone. Sometimes it just quiets them, because no matter where I went, he was there in small, almost unexplainable ways. License plates with JRL. A car parked on my street with those same letters. Moments that didn't feel significant on their own, but collectively made it impossible to forget him. Eventually, life brought him back around. He went through a breakup that affected him more deeply than he expected. And I showed up for him. Not as someone trying to reclaim something romantic, but as someone who genuinely cared about him as a person. And that's when everything shifted. Not suddenly, but intentionally. We were on the phone one day when he said, "We should help each other. We're both in places in life where we could use support, and we have strengths that align." And what stood out to me wasn't just the idea. It was the tone behind it. There was no pressure, no hidden agenda, just clarity. So I said yes, because it made sense, because I trusted him, because I enjoyed who he was. But very quickly I realized something I hadn't accounted for. We weren't clearly defined. We weren't dating, but we also weren't completely detached. And I knew I couldn't build something meaningful in business if my emotions were still involved. So I said something that felt abrupt but necessary. "I can't like you anymore." And what I expected was resistance. What I got was respect. From that point forward, we chose to define what we were building. And in doing that, something unexpected happened. The emotional attachment didn't disappear, but it transformed. It became something steadier, something rooted in growth. But that didn't mean it was easy. Working together exposed parts of both of us that hadn't been tested before. He had a tendency to raise his voice, and I had a history that made that difficult for me to tolerate. And instead of avoiding it, we addressed it directly. I told him what it did to me. He told me it was how he communicated. And somewhere in the middle of that difference, we found compromise. Because he tried. And that mattered. More than perfection ever could. There were moments where I wasn't at my best either. Moments where I reacted from stress and took it out on him. And instead of meeting me with the same energy, he met me with understanding. Saying, "I know that's not for me. I love you. I'll talk to you tomorrow." That kind of response changes something in you. Because it shows you that conflict doesn't have to equal loss. And over time, that became the foundation of what we had. It wasn't romantic, but it was real and it was deep. The kind of connection that you don't walk away from easily, but it grows with you. When he told me he was thinking about moving to Texas, I could hear the hesitation in his voice. Not because he didn't want to go, but because he didn't want to break the promise he made to me. And I realized in that moment that love sometimes looks like release. So I told him to go, and I meant it. And when Texas didn't work out, I helped him find his way to the Dominican Republic. Because sometimes helping someone isn't about proximity. It's about positioning them where they can rebuild. And through all of it, we stayed connected. Distance didn't weaken anything. If anything, it clarified it. I just didn't expect that the distance that would come would be permanent. You know, I've experienced loss before, but this one feels different because this wasn't someone from my past. This was someone in my present, someone I was actively building with. And the night it happened, I woke up, heart racing, no explanation, no clear reason, just something felt off. I reached out, no response, and in that silence, I knew. The confirmation didn't come until later, but it didn't tell me anything I hadn't already felt. It just made it real in a way I didn't want to accept. So here's what I want you to understand, Jordan. Some of the most important relationships in your life will not follow traditional paths. They won't always be romantic. They won't always be visible. They won't always be understood by other people, but they will shape you. They will challenge you. They will grow you in ways that nothing else can. And when you experience something like that, you don't measure it by how long it lasted. You measure it by how deeply it changed you. And he changed me. That's the truth. So now I carry that forward, not just the memory, but the responsibility to continue what we started, to build what we believed was possible, to create something that extends beyond me. Because love like that doesn't end, it evolves. And I say this with all the love I am still learning how to give. Your mom. Thank you for sitting with me through this one. I know it was a heavy one, and I also know that not everybody listening will fully understand the kind of connection I just described. But if you do, you do. And if you ever had someone in your life who showed up for you in a way that changed you, in a way that helped shape who you are becoming, then you know that losing something like that doesn't just leave a gap. It leaves an imprint, and that imprint doesn't go away. So if you're listening to this and you're carrying something similar, whether it's loss or change, or just trying to make sense of a connection that meant more than you expected it to, just know that it mattered, it counted, and you're allowed to feel the weight of it without trying to minimize it or explain it away. For me, this isn't just something I'm grieving, it's something I'm going to carry forward in the way I show up, in the things I build, in the goals that didn't just belong to me. Because some connections don't end, they just change form. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for listening. And if this episode resonated with you in any way, feel free to share it with someone who might need to hear it. Until next time, this has been Dear Jordan, Letters to My Daughter.